Nigel Farage has done it again, and this time it's Boris Johnson who's been left red-faced and scrambling. In an exclusive GB News interview, inside the Battle of Britain bunker, no less, the former Prime Minister attempted one of his classic PR comebacks. He brushed off Nigel Farage. He laughed off Reform UK. He claimed voters would eventually come crawling back to the Conservatives. But within hours, Nigel Farage hit back. And what he delivered was a humiliation so public, so brutal, even Boris Johnson's most loyal fans were left speechless. Let's not kid ourselves. Boris Johnson wanted a moment, a chance to remind the public he still mattered. That he wasn't just yesterday's news buried beneath lockdown scandals, party lies, and economic carnage. But what he got instead was a reality check from the one man who's turning British politics upside down, Nigel Farage. Because here's the truth. While Boris Johnson sat smugly in a GB News studio fantasizing about a Tory revival in 2029, Nigel Farage was out there pulling voters away from the Conservatives in real time. And when Boris said, "I don't believe Farage, will become Prime Minister," it was less a prediction and more a desperate prayer because he knows what's happening. Everyone in Westminster knows. Farage and Reform are storming the political battlefield, scooping up disillusioned voters by the thousands, crushing local election results and exposing the Tory party as a hollowed-out shell of what it once was. Boris tried to laugh it off. He said that Tories don't need some monkey gland infusion from another party. But in that same breath, he admitted the Conservative Party is in a tough spot. A very tough spot. What he won't admit is why. It's not just because of high taxes or economic mismanagement. It's because the British people are sick and tired of being lied to. Lied to about Brexit, lied to about immigration, lied to about lockdown rules and who was breaking them. Boris Johnson was at the center of it all. And now that the public are turning away in disgust, he wants to pretend he's the answer. But Nigel Farage isn't letting that fantasy fly. The very same day Johnson tried to downplay Reform's threat, Farage dropped a brutal counterpunch. Speaking about the Channel migrant crisis, he called out the utter failure of both Labour and the Tories and asked, "How many of these young men crossing today are Iranian terrorists?" That wasn't just political rhetoric. That was a direct assault on the hollow promises of Boris Johnson's premiership. A reminder that the Tories, for all their talk, did nothing to fix the border crisis. That under Johnson, net migration surged to record-breaking levels. And now, suddenly, Boris wants to talk tough on wokeness. Please. The same Boris who bowed to political correctness every time it suited him, who abandoned his base to chase headlines and appease the media elite, now has rebranding himself as the savior of conservatism. Nigel Farage isn't buying it, and neither is the country. Because while Boris Johnson reminisces about the 1970s and warns of Labour tyranny, he's forgetting something critical. The British people aren't scared anymore. They are furious. Furious that both major parties have ignored them. Furious that year after year politicians promised change and deliver nothing. Furious that they were told Brexit would mean control, but instead got record immigration, spiraling costs, and lost sovereignty. And no amount of nostalgic waffle from Boris Johnson can undo that. When he says the people will be fed up by 2028 or 2029 is already 2 years too late. The British public is done waiting. They are not looking to 2029. They are looking to the next general election. And every day more of them are saying the same thing. Maybe it's time to give Farage a shot. That's what really terrifies Boris. Not Labour, not Star, not even the Lib Dems. It's Nigel Farage standing there with no shame, no filter, and no intention of playing by the Westminster rules. Because Farage doesn't care what the elites think. He's not trying to win dinner party points in Islington. He's talking to the millions who feel betrayed, voiceless, and abandoned. And the more Johnson mocks him, the stronger Farage gets. Let's not forget Boris Johnson once needed Farage desperately in the 2019 election. It was Reform UK, then the Brexit Party, that stood down candidates to avoid splitting the vote. It was Farage who gave Johnson the space to win. Now Johnson wants to pretend that never happened. He wants to paint Farage as irrelevant, a sideshow. But the truth, Farage holds all the cards now. And if Reform UK continues to rise, it won't be Boris Johnson leading a Tory comeback in 2029. It will be Farage leading the revolution and Boris watching from the sidelines, a relic of a failed era. Because Boris Johnson doesn't understand the anger simmering in this country. Not anymore. He thinks a few GB News soundbites will win the people back. But people remember, they remember Partygate. They remember the broken Brexit promises. They remember how Johnson played the clown while the country burned. And now, after years of deceit, they are finally looking elsewhere. And what they see in Nigel Farage isn't just defiance. It's